can be the greatest guy in the world as an entrepreneur, but there's still a luck component out there. The best thing is, as a brand, if you identify with values of people.
I mean, Elon Musk is such a controversial person.
It's only meaningful if you're able to make the whole transport better and more affordable for people, more convenient.
But the customer service sucks.
The Buddhism helped me maybe to build my value system. Before that, I worked in a big company, like many years in BMW and also in Nissan.
If anybody just click on this podcast, what would you wish people can take away?
Ready? Let's go.
Okay, welcome, Daniel. Super happy to host you. So before we dive into the podcast, who's Daniel?
I'm from Munich, so here in my hometown. And I grew up here with a strange fascination already from childhood for China. So I was always, this attracted me a lot. And then I read some books and I bought some Chinese language course books. And so this was fascinating for me. I started to learn a little bit during high school. And then during my studies, I went to China, and I ended up spending nearly half of my life over in China. So I'm a guy, I think, between both worlds, between China and Germany. So this is my home base, and China became my second home. And I've always tried to build the bridges between both sides.
And what's your title?
Right now, I'm the founder of Noyo Mobility. It's a Swiss company working with electric vehicles from China. And we're trying to help these Chinese EV brands who are entering Europe right now to do that in a smooth way. So we help them to find a good strategy, to build the brand, to build up their service and sales network, and we help them to sell the cars.
Yeah. So like when you said, since you grew up, the entire growing up process, you are fascinated by Chinese culture, right? Me as a like Chinese speaker in Munich, actually, I couldn't really see a lot of like the kind of signs going on the street. So when you say you were fascinated, what was the trigger point like when you was, oh my God, Chinese culture is actually interesting?
I think because in my family there was a few people, my father a little bit and my uncle, they were Buddhist, so they believe in Buddhism. So I get very strong influence by this also. That trigger already a little bit the interest. And then I read the book as a boy, as a small boy about China. And I can't tell you, maybe it was a little bit in my genes. I was just fascinated. It was a mystery for me. And the characters, they look so magnificent. There's a mystery behind. So I felt attracted to that mystery.
Some people might say differently. I mean, to be honest, if I cannot read Chinese, if you ask me to learn as a total foreigner, I would be like, wow, I cannot,
Yeah, it's not easy. And I think especially because I was fortunate to have some passion and interest for that. But if you have to learn that like a Chinese kid in primary school, it's tough, right? Like the first 6 years, you do nothing else than learning the language.
But like, how come your family like kind of is Buddhism? It's not common, right?
No, it's not common. So my uncle, he was, I think, traveling to in the very early years already to India and to China, to Tibet. So he got inspired by Tibetan Buddhism. And he bring this back and become very active. And I also find it very. It had a strong impression on me in my childhood. So I wouldn't say I'm now a very firm believer, but as a philosophy, I like it very much. So, and that maybe was one of the reasons why I got interested in this.
Have you ever encountered a very difficult phase in your life, and then actually the spiritual kind of, towards Buddhism actually helped you?
Yeah. So I would say. The Buddhism helped me maybe to build my value system, but it's not that I now just would say it's just Buddhism, so that was part of building my value system. And definitely in my life I encountered some tough challenges. The biggest one was really when I started up my own EV company in China together with some friends, BYTON. So that was really a big startup. We raised lots of money, we built a car, we built a factory. But unfortunately, in the end, we didn't make it. And that was very, very tough, because building a company, putting all your heart blood in there, also putting money in there, and having a great team. We were nearly 2,000 people.
Wow.
That was,
it's not a startup.
Yeah, no, it was a big startup. That was a phase like 10 years ago when Tesla share price really took off. Then in China, a lot of entrepreneurs they want to build their own electric vehicle business. There's companies like NIO, Xiaopeng, Li Auto, and BYTON was one of them. But the difference of BYTON was founded by some Germans who did that in China. So including myself, I worked many years in BMW. So with some other BMW guys, we did this together. And it was really exciting. We had some great success along the way. So we launched the car at CES in Las Vegas. Wow. So it got a big bang. So it was huge screen in the car. So the whole car was covered in a big screen. And we built the car around user experience. Not like a traditional car, more like a smartphone. And it got good recognition. We built a huge factory in China. And we were just short away from bringing this to production, like maybe 8 to 10 months to really start to sell it to the end customer. But then the COVID hit us in 2020. Wow. And that was so tough because all the investors, they put their investment on hold. And at that phase, we were in a real most capital intense phase. You can imagine in 1 second the investment stops. So that was very tough. And then I had to leave the company by mid of 2020, and that was for me the hardest thing ever, right? Wow. Professionally the hardest thing, because then later on the company, they still tried to save it, but in the end it failed. And that was tough. If you build it up from scratch with so much passion and great people, and then you see it fail in the end. And also on me personally, I was the CEO and the legal representative of this company. That was very tough. It took quite a long time for me to recover. And I think going through that hard time, definitely it was very helpful to have a good... I'm a very positive person and very optimistic person, but that was very hard for me. But I took half a year maybe to really reflect on that and digest that and deal with it. And in the end, from this very big feeling of loss and regret, by digesting it sometime and reflecting it actively, it became a learning. So despite I still regretted that we didn't make it, but now it becomes a valuable experience. And before that, I worked in a big company, like many years in BMW and also in Nissan, which was completely different as a Japanese company. My career always went like this. So very successful, always growing very fast and everything perfect. And in BYTON, then it was a huge failure in the end. But the things you learn from that are so much more. So it's very valuable experience actually to take away the learnings from that. And of course, later on, you always know better. But actually, these things which are tough on you or even let you fail, looking back, they can become a very precious experience. So I think now about it like this.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating when people already experience corporate life with a really successful career trajectory, and then all of a sudden, it's not all of a sudden, maybe you already think about it, and then switch to entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And can you take me back to the day that you're like, okay, I'm quitting, I'm gonna start my own things?
So I started here in Munich in BMW with my professional career, and then because I was already fluently Chinese speaking and had a huge passion, just at that time BMW started to operate in China, so they sent me to China very fast to negotiate a joint venture and so on. So I was lucky because this was amazing, despite being part of a big company. But basically in China, 20 years ago in 2002, there were nearly no cars on the road, only the buses and the taxis and bikes. And BMW was selling just very small volume of cars. And then within 10 years, this was exploding, becoming the biggest market in the world, exceeding everyone's imagination. No one would have thought it's possible. It goes like this. So it was, despite being part of a big company and I'm being an employee, it felt like an entrepreneur, because we built it up out of nothing. It felt like being an entrepreneur. So that was good. And I made a decision in BMW when I was there to cooperate with the China Entrepreneur Club. Because at that time we thought this is very matching with BMW brand spirit, so this entrepreneur spirit. And at that time they were not so famous yet, so they wanted to also cooperate with us. And I had a really chance to meet some of these amazing Chinese entrepreneurs, like Jack Ma, Li Shufu, and so on. So I attended these meetings, and they talk off the record, and they tell their stories and experience. Liu Tuanzhi, the founder of Lenovo, for example, and so on. So I meet quite a lot of these entrepreneurs, and
they were nobody back then.
No, there were somebody already. Okay. They were already famous, but not. I mean, right now it's just, I mean, beyond imagination. But 20 years ago, still, I think there were already someone, because most of their companies they founded in the 90s, but they were not completely through the roof. For example, the founder of Geely, Li Shufu, before he buy Volvo in China, the people more smile about him, but no one think one day he will build one of the world's most famous car companies and so on. So, this inspires me so much because they tell so many tough stories. Or Pony Ma from Tencent, or these people. So in the beginning, they have nothing. They just go out with their bike and borrow money and put it in their company. And how they do it, I mean, it's just the spirit of fighting and persistence, going through hardship, and having a dream and going for it with everything it takes, always up and down. Very inspiring. And I always thought, okay, unfortunately, for me in the car industry, there will not be chance to become an entrepreneur, because 20 years ago, no Tesla. Okay. So every car you buy is from a big company. There's no startup. Because to develop a car, you need 2 billion. And the factory, and you need to bring it out. So basically, in order to be a startup, you would have to have 2 or 3 billion without making any money before you bring out your first car. So it was just impossible to do it. But then Tesla was there at some point of time. And if you remember, so in the beginning, the people were laughing also about them. And then they launched the first car, the Model S. And also in China, all these IT entrepreneurs, they immediately buy this car. So they drive Tesla. And then suddenly in 2014, Tesla's share price goes through the roof. So it becomes suddenly, the market cap is like 50 billion for a company which just sells 50,000 cars. It becomes more valuable than BMW. And then in China, that created a huge rush and excitement. So suddenly the people think, wow, the capital market values this new electric cars like this. So a lot of entrepreneurs start to think about doing something like Tesla. I was already many years before that fascinated by electric cars, because BMW also worked on this Project I. So that was i3, i8, 2 electric vehicles. I visited Tesla already before they launched this model in 2011 with some other BMW guys. So we make a learning trip to Silicon Valley, visit all the internet companies and also Tesla. And then we go to this empty factory and we look at it, and it's crazy. So, and then most of the other guys from BMW, they were really laughing about this, like it is a joke. And I was fascinated from this spirit to do a new car company, electric, and also for my colleagues who were looking at this very, a bit arrogant, to be honest. And from that, it had a seed in my head to do something like this. I also had chance once to talk with Elon Musk. So I had a dialogue with him. So talking about the market and development in China. And I had the feeling this is something fascinating. And because, in China, the government, the Chinese car industry really didn't do well. So if you compare with Korea or Japan, who, let's say, they started in the 50s,
Toyota
60s. Exactly. So they started and then they became global companies, very successful, right? Toyota in the whole world is very successful. Hyundai now also very successful, But the Chinese car brands, they really got stuck. No one wanted to buy a Chinese car in Europe or in North America. And the main reason was that in China, the gasoline cars, the government required everyone to build a joint venture. That means all the Chinese car companies, they were just leaning back, doing joint venture with foreign brands, making very good money, having zero incentive to build their own good products.
I was about to ask you, because I know a lot of big brands, if you want to go to China, you need to be joint venture, and then they need to hold the majority amount of the share, right?
50-50. So this is this old rule. So the government, the planning authority in China, NDRC, they had this rule from the 80s already, when they opened up the industry, and then Volkswagen was one of the first one to enter. So they did the 50-50 joint venture, and the government thought by doing this joint venture, they can transfer all the know-how to the local players. But actually, the local players, they learned how to produce a car and how to sell a car, but they didn't learn how to develop a car. So the cars were still developed back in Wolfsburg or back in US, and it didn't work. So by around 2008, 2010, then the government thought we have to do something. And then there was some discussion about electric cars. And then the central government decided we make the top priority now for China to develop electric cars and use electric cars as a kind of chance for the Chinese car industry to overtake the rest of the world. And three reasons. So if you remember in Beijing, like in 2008, around the Olympics, the air quality was terrible. I mean, we were sitting at home with our kids there. Sometimes you can sit the whole weekend, you're surrounded by smog. It's just terrible. So the government also said we have to do something. So the car pollution is huge. So let's go electric. Secondly, the industry, so to help the car industry in China to become globally leading in electric cars. And then third one also because China needs to import the oil for the gasoline. So if they do electric, they can get independent of importing the oil. So they started to set this as a big goal, but no one wanted to do it. Because at that time, even the government say you have to do it and put some policy in place, but all the car companies, they didn't really start to work on this yet, but it was already there. Only after Tesla's share price goes through the roof, then all companies suddenly start to go all in on this one. So that was really what triggered me then. And after my BMW time, I was still at Nissan with Infiniti. But after 3 years, then there was this chance to really set up BYTON. And initially, we had some great partners to help on this, like Tencent and Foxconn. So we were very confident, and a lot of guys from BMW iProject came out. Some guys from Tesla came over. We had someone from Google and Apple. And we set up this new team, and then that was an exciting journey. Looking back, it's pity we didn't make it, but I don't regret having tried that.
I really think you only took like 6 months to recover and digest. Is fascinating. It's like I don't think anybody can recover that quick, especially you grow a company until like 2,000 employees. That is fascinating, right? And also, do you think timing is very important for entrepreneur?
Yes.
I think it's a part. Okay, you tell me.
I think it's a very good question. I think because you can be the greatest guy in the world as an entrepreneur, but there's still a luck component out there. So this is no excuse. So, but it's just you also need luck, to a certain degree, to meet the right people or to have the right timing. In terms of timing, we really had bad luck, because some of our peers like NIO and Xiaopeng, they were able to bring out the first cars to the market just before Corona hit. And we were a little bit later than them. And this really came to the worst time in terms of timing. Of course, if I would do it again, knowing what I know afterwards, I could have avoided all these problems. We could have been faster right from the beginning, because as an entrepreneur, you always have to adjust. Yeah? You learn as you go along, right? And then if it doesn't work, you try it out again, you do a different way. So if you know these things later, you could take the shortcut directly, right? And you make it happen. So if I would do it again, we could do it with much less money in a shorter period of time, maybe have the product out, but that doesn't help. In the end, the timing was really not good. It's a pity, but the thing, there's still some things I'm proud about it, because I know that despite we didn't make it to the market, I know that the design of the car with the big screen and the new user interface, these were all Silicon Valley digital entrepreneurs, right? These were not traditional car guys. This inspired a lot of people in the industry. So right now you see a lot of design. Actually, they follow this direction. Secondly, the team was amazing. So they were really believers. They leave great corporate jobs with big salary. They love our vision and they come in with a passion and we empower them, right? Like they don't get a boss who tell them what to do or not to do. They get their free room to do what they love to do. And certainly also the brand. I mean, BYTON meant bytes on wheels. That means data power, not horsepower, and all these kind of things. So that was quite powerful. And these were the good things. I think it's also a learning. And we did a lot of things different than traditional players. For example, developing the car and the brand and everything, we involved the users. So very early we find some early adopters who love our brand. We ask them, do you want to become co-creator? And then we meet with them, we talk with them, we involve them in the process and so on. And that became quite powerful. So even before we started to sell the car, alone in Europe, we had 60,000 pre-orders.
Wow.
People who would have liked to buy the car.
I think better than Cybertruck. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think so. The reason to fail was not the product. So it was really timing and also maybe not having the best setup in terms of investors. And also, I have to say, what for me to do this, I'm also a car guy who believes in electric cars, but I believe in globalization. I believe really that if we combine the different strengths of different areas, it's very beneficial. So the vision of BYTON was to build a global startup. So they used the best of German engineering and design. So we had an office here in Munich with more than 50 designers. We had Silicon Valley engineering in Santa Clara, so in the top more than 500 engineers there. A lot of digital guys from the tech world. And we had this team with more than 1,000 engineers and manufacturing guys in China. And so we used German engineering, Silicon Valley tech, Chinese entrepreneur spirit, Chinese funding, Chinese supply chain and cost advantage. So I think that's an amazing combination. So if you can do that. And but looking back now, unfortunately, and this is not a political statement, but unfortunately the world has moved apart again since a couple of years. So before 2018, I think the world was more growing together, but now we see more conflict between China and the US, and it's a bit of more decoupling. So I think something like what we try to do across the borders, Silicon Valley, China, Germany, a virtual company, I think this would be nearly impossible to do it right now. So if I would do that again, I would pick one of the three places and do it there, only there in one location.
So like right now, you said back then they really loved your vision and mission. What was the vision and mission back then in that company? And also what's the vision and mission right now for
with
you?
The new company or with BYTON?
Both,
Yeah, so BYTON's vision was to build a smart device on wheels. So if you remember, I don't know, when you had your first smartphone, I mean, this Nokia to smartphone, this kind of experience, I mean, this changes your life. It's this convenience. So the same moment in a car, and a smart device on wheels, what does it mean? It means super convenience, and if you calculate how much time an average person wastes in their car every day, and then they need to focus on driving, it's lost time. So by being a smart device on wheels, we can give you back your time. It can become your office, it can become your living space, your gaming space, whatever. And of course, we were thinking about autonomous driving. So we were assuming then that 5 years later, 10 years later, everyone will drive autonomous, and then you have new chances to do. So BYTON, the 2 front seats, we had the world innovation. They were able to rotate the seats by 15 degrees. You have this big screen, and then in autonomous mode, you could do something on the screen, like a Zoom meeting, working, or watching a movie or something like that. Yeah, so we're thinking into that direction. Yeah, and to design this from the user experience inside out.
Yeah.
And all the things, if the car can drive, how fast it can drive, and all these things are less important. So that was the vision for BYTON, and of course it also happened to be a great electric car. So with zero emission. But BYTON was more about the digital user experience, and so. And it's no wonder now that we see a couple of great Chinese companies now finally starting to go global. After they failed, now I think this finding from Chinese government 15 years ago, they said Chinese car industry is not competitive. Then they started to build up the battery supply chain and push the companies to go electric. Now it's paying off. So we see now really great Chinese products. And this led me also now, when I came back 2 years ago with the family to Germany, I said, okay, we didn't launch BYTON, but now there's some very, very good Chinese electric vehicles. And they are going global now, but for them it's not easy to come to Europe. So I want to help them. And especially, I think in Europe, it's too slow. If you think about it's not about if you like to drive electric or not. If you just look at emissions, so if you look at our climate crisis, the 1.5 degrees goal, we can only achieve that, and we have the technology now to get out 30% of all the emission which comes from cars. We can get it out completely tomorrow if you want. But it's going too slow. So, and we cannot let the market decide it. So, and you saw in Germany now, it's like 15%, every 6th car is electric. A lot of people have concerns. But the main problem is there's no affordable electric car. It's all too expensive. If you're able to drive a Tesla, it's above 40,000 euro. But if you're a normal average citizen, maybe can only spend 15 to 20,000 euro for a car, there's no choice because electric car is too expensive. And because China did such an amazing job now in electric vehicles, they're able to get the cost down. They do it much faster with less resources. And the reason why I founded Noyo a bit more than 1 year ago was really to get affordable electric vehicles in the market, so we can see the curve go up and have faster electrification. And I'm very sure that if we have a great product which costs the same like a gasoline car, not 50% more, but the same, a lot of people will switch. And all my friends who have switched from gasoline car to electric car, no one wants to go back. So that's what drives me. And now Noyo, we have set it up in Switzerland. It's an importer for Chinese vehicles. We are currently working with one big manufacturer, Dongfeng Group, but we're also advising a couple of other companies, and we're trying to help them to go into Europe. It doesn't mean that we don't think the European companies should be doing well, but I think it's very normal now. Same like the Japanese or Korean, they went global. Now is the time of the Chinese brands to go global, and they need some help to get in here. And with my background, I can understand the Chinese companies well. And I can understand the European market well, so this can really have some added value. Because for the Chinese companies, culturally, to go to Europe is very challenging. So it's very different.
I can imagine. Like, do you think right now still a lot of European companies wanted to get into Chinese market, vice versa as well? I mean, okay, so to be honest, on the market right now, I can really think about one Chinese brand that is doing so well is DJI.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Everybody knows DJI, everybody knows it's Chinese, and everybody trusts it. But like how Chinese automotive brand can also achieve in terms of globalization and branding. What's your thought on that? Like,
yeah, DJI is a great example, right? This is clearly the world leader.
Yeah.
But this is a new product, right? There was nothing like this out there, so they created that. So it's easier. Yeah. If you come into an existing legacy, and to build up the brand is not so easy. So I think the Chinese cars right now, I mean, firstly, to enter Europe is very difficult, and they underestimate the difficulty, because to build a brand, you need to gain trust. You need to let people know what you're standing for. You need to have an amazing product, and you need to really be able to offer the whole ecosystem, the service, the reliability, the parts, and these kind of things. So you need to build this up. So I think right now the Chinese EVs, they have 3-4 points where they can differ and stand out versus the rest of the world. Yeah? Maybe most interestingly, it relates to BYTON, is the digital experience in the car. And this is because you see a lot of entrepreneurs in China who enter this industry to build electric cars. They were not car guys before, they were internet entrepreneurs. Yeah? So the three biggest one, NIO, Xiaopeng, Li Auto, all the three founders, they have Nasdaq listed internet companies before. Wow. So they come with a very different mindset to do that. Yeah? So, and they build it around digital experience. But even the traditional car companies in China now, they put software, customer experience in the car really upfront. So, and you know that in Germany there's a lot of talk about Volkswagen, their software problem. This is a complete different culture than engineering a car. In Germany, we have still the best engineers to develop the drivetrain, all these driving characteristics, the hardware, the mechanical engineering. But the culture of developing good user experience and software is very different. Yeah, so and you need to really get the balance of these cultures. Yeah, so the Chinese cars are good in digital experience in the car, and you get some vehicles here, including the one we have from Dongfeng, but also NIO, Xiaopeng. They have great user experience, even better than Tesla in the car. Yeah, and in China, you know, it's very fancy. You have these crazy functions in the car, like singing karaoke and doing all kind of stuff, and there's seamless connectivity with your smartphone. Whatever you have in there, it's seamlessly connected. It's no hassle. Very smooth experience, charging, navigation, and so on. So might not be so relevant for the older customers, but young generation, they will care a lot about this. Also, even in Europe, which is a bit slower on this. So I think this is the selling point number one. Secondly, all these good Chinese brands, they have benchmarked Tesla, and now their energy efficiency. That means really the consumption they need. How far they can get with some battery. Is same level or better than Tesla. So it's very good electric vehicles. And for many of the European cars, you can't say that yet, because a lot of the European companies, they were too slow in transforming to electric. They basically use a gasoline car and convert it to become an electric car. And then you don't get good efficiency. You can never reach the same efficiency and cost structure as Tesla or someone like that if you do like this. And the third point is really on the also the quality side. So the quality now is on a similar level like German cars. And then the cost. The cost is crazy. I mean, in China, now the biggest battery company in the world is CATL. This company was founded just a little bit more than 10 years ago. I know the founder. He was also an investor in BYTON, by the way, Robin
really?
Zhang. So he's a famous person now, and he built this out of nothing. So and because China, the government has supported this whole battery supply chain build-up, the cost now is also very competitive. And in Europe now, there's a lot of gigafactories being built, but it takes time, because you need the whole supply chain, the raw materials to go in and to get this cost advantage. And the battery is 40% of the total cost of the car. So on average, and then besides of that, the Chinese, they're working around the clock, the Chinese OEMs. So if a car here from Volkswagen or BMW, it takes maybe 48 to 60 months to develop that car. 4 years to 5 years before they start to sell it, they start to developing it. In China, it's 24 months only. So now it's 2 years, and it's maybe 1/5 of the cost. So now if the Germans, they maybe is $1 billion or more for a car, in China it's 200 million. But now it's comparable quality, Before that, it used to be this kind of quality difference. Now it's the same level. So the Chinese brands entering, they will be able to offer electric cars at similar price than gasoline cars. And that's gonna be, I think, really the point when this S-curve of technical change, I think it takes off. When this is the same price, it will really take off. I'm convinced about this.
Yeah, I mean, I can recall because I used to work for like Porsche in Asia as well, doing marketing. And then I think before that, when I was studying, I was living in Beijing as well. So I think I can really relate what you think talking about like, so before I moved to Beijing, I had the imagination that I need to wear mask every day because the cloud is gonna be, you just can't see the sun. But a lot of people like when they haven't been there right now, actually in Chinese environment, I have really kind of good faith on them because the air quality has been improved and then like economy and then a lot of different things. I think those are the things that people didn't see, and also how human and then their education growth is so fast, and then right now they can configure a good product about to push out to the market, but just because of the branding know-how, such as the things you just mentioned, it's super hard to enter either European market or US market. So based on my experience, I feel like if you look at Tesla, right, they never spend, they claim they never spend any money on marketing.
That's right,
because community, because word of mouth.
Absolutely.
So right now, you are going to help Chinese, those like companies provide digital experience, energy efficiency, high quality cars to come to Europe. How do you gonna build your digital experience and a community in Europe?
So you're absolutely right. So the new way of doing marketing, I think, is not to spend billions in traditional advertisement. It's also, it's not really fake and credible. So you see, for example, now in the European Cup, the Chinese brand BYD, they spent maybe a lot on the advertisement. So now maybe a lot of people hear about this brand, but they don't know what it stands for. So what we really need to do is connect with the user and genuinely build the brand. And I think the most important is, I mean, you have to understand it takes time, right? Like it needs to be credible. And for the car, because in Europe, everyone has used many cars before, so they know service is important. So you need to be credible. No one wants to buy a car where they don't have a workshop or they don't get the parts. So these are the things you have to do upfront. And a lot of the Chinese brands coming over, they underestimate. They think, oh, we have a great product, great price, we just push it in the market, but the people will not buy it. So this takes time. And for the brand, you need to tell your story. No one knows these brands. I mean, who wants to buy? I mean, tell their friend about a brand. They can't even tell them anything about it. Who is that? What is their heart and soul? What are they doing? So this is quite important. And branding doesn't mean spending millions for marketing, but telling credibly your story on what is the heart and soul of your company and what your products stand for. What is your brand positioning? Where you're different than other guys? And I mean, these are great electric vehicles, so there's enough of powerful messaging to do. It's zero emission, it's green, and they have great features on the digital side, so it's possible to tell that. With Noyo, what we are trying to do, but this is still work in progress, to be honest. We are also doing step by step.
Some scoops.
is we want to build a great digital experience. That means the traditional way of buying a car and owning a car and servicing a car is still quite analog in Europe, right? So you go to a dealership, you make a test drive, and service, you need to call your dealer, make an appointment, and so on. So it's quite a pain. So most people hate that, right? It's a waste of time.
That's why I don't have a car.
Exactly. And then also there's new ways of ownership, not necessarily buying it, but maybe just using it, sharing it, subscribing it. So what we want to do is a full digital purchase experience. So, and we have our website in Switzerland for the brands we have. So we are working on making that a purchase. And you can do leasing, and you can do subscription, everything included. You can make a virtual test drive, where you basically make an appointment. Someone comes to you, does a test drive with you. So basically, you don't need the physical showroom. In Switzerland, we are still working with physical showrooms because we can't do everything at the same time. So we are still in a hybrid. But I think for the future, a lot of customers, especially for affordable cars, they don't want to get buzzed to go somewhere, but they want to do it digitally. And it's possible to do it. Yeah. And then even more important than that is the service experience. Yeah? So we are working on the Know Your app. This is a custom app. When you have your car, all kind of service-related issues you can solve with this app. Yeah? So if you have a problem, you can talk to us. If you want to make an appointment to change your winter tires, you do it through the app. Transparent, clear pricing. It can make the appointment. It tells you where to drop it off, yeah, and how to do that. And if you have advanced service, we can maybe even pick up your car and something like this. So to go completely digital through that. Yeah? And what happens in the back end, yeah, where your car goes for different kind of things, maybe to someone different, yeah, you don't need to bother, right? So it's just from a customer experience we want to deliver that. Yeah. So what I just said, it's not all in place yet. So we're building this up, and it takes some time, but that's the vision, yeah. Because we are launching a new brand to the market. At the same time, we can try now to disrupt a little bit the traditional way how you buy and own a car. And by building this in a digital way.
It's like having your mobility co-pilot.
Yeah.
Your mobility co-pilot. If you want
Absolutely.
to go from A to B, as long as you're with us, you have a co-pilot basically.
Exactly. That would be one step further, right? Like that you have complete, you're just interested how to get from A to B, and someone helps you to solve it. They are very convenient.
Yeah. For me, like for a lot of people who doesn't have time, I think it's a game changer.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so this is in the making, but like you say before the product launch.
Yeah.
What do you mean by product launch?
Yeah.
Like
product launch, the vehicles which we launched in the market. Yeah. So right now we are already selling some cars. Yeah. So we have a premium brand from Dongfeng Group. It's called Voya. Comes from Voyager and so on. It's very nice design. Has also a big screen in the car.
Can I sing karaoke in a car?
In China you can, yeah.
But otherwise Irish people will love it probably.
Yeah, I know. So we're working on a European karaoke version. Yes. And it's a very nice car. And we're actually working on launching an affordable car with a price around 20,000 euro.
Wow.
It's called Dongfeng Box. And it's a very nice small car, and electric, has all the features. And this is going to be very exciting. Around September this year, we will bring it to the market. So you can buy the cars already. But I say from what I described now, to buy everything online and get the service in the app, we are rolling this out step by step. So what I described to you is the vision. It's not all of that is implemented yet.
Yeah. So like, where can people place the pre-order?
On our website in Switzerland. So we have voya.ch, and we have mhero.ch. Mhero is a very high-end off-road vehicle, very amazing, fully electric. And then we have the Dongfeng, dongfengnami.ch. So these three web pages for the three different brands we have. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit how many pre-orders do you already have, if that is okay to disclose?
Yeah, so we started to sell by end of last year. Now we are approaching our 3-digit numbers. Yeah, so it's not that big yet, but I think now with the small vehicle, when we're gonna launch that, the volume is really gonna go up. Yeah, because this will be the first affordable car we can offer.
Yeah. And how Chinese brands think about the launch in Europe? Are they excited? Are they, I
think our Chinese partner, they like what we are doing, because we are doing very down-to-earth PR work. We invite journalists, we build a bridge, we tell the story. We also take some journalists from Europe back to China, to the headquarters, to let them understand it and so on. So we get actually very good media coverage on the products. Yeah. And this is not the easy thing to do. And actually, most of the Chinese brands coming to Europe, they're struggling very much. And some of them already have lessons learned, and even some of them closed their office again. Yeah, so like here in Munich, we had Great Wall Motors. I heard they closed down their office.
Which one?
Great Wall Motors. Yeah, so it's one of the many ones. Yeah. So and what is the reason? Because for them it's very hard to build a bridge. Yeah, so either because in order to launch here, you need to get strong support from the headquarters in China, right? So either you send some people from China over here, they understand the headquarters, but they don't understand the market. Yeah? Then they will struggle here to get it right, because the market in Europe is so different. Yeah? So you have companies, leasing, residual value, big fleet companies, rental companies. It's completely different landscape than in China. It works completely different. Yeah? So if you send a headquarter team alone, they will struggle to make it. Yeah? Some other companies, they hire a local team, very nice local team. They know maybe the market, but they have no chance to communicate successfully with the headquarters. Yeah? So they're also struggling very much. Yeah? And then you have some of the Chinese OEMs, they're too impatient. So they want to see very fast success. So they come here and they say, the first year, I want to see 100,000 units. Yeah? And they push the whole team just to sell cars. And this is also doomed to fail, yeah? Because when you go here, you have to have sustainable view. These things, they don't go from one day to the other. Yeah? So you have to really gain the trust, build the brand, and then the success will come. The volume will be more a result. If this is your only target to come in and immediately push, that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. The car is a complex decision. It's a very important purchase decision in everyone's life, or even usage decision. So it's not just that people will immediately switch and accept these new brands. It takes time and some patience, and you need to invest first before you get the return. Yeah? For example, in this after sales, you need to have a network of workshops who can do it. You have to have your parts availability. You need to have a team who can solve issues. If you don't have that, it will be difficult. Yeah. So
yeah, it's funny, right? Because right now a lot of e-commerce shop that I'm browsing Instagram online, actually, a lot of them are Chinese company and then got white label to a kind of European look-like shop, right? So a lot of time I place order, but then I want to return it, but the customer service sucks. It's
not existent.
You have no direct line can call, not even like AI chatbot I can talk to. It's just horrible, isn't it?
This is just, let's say, very short business consideration, and of course in China the clock turns faster, so people are used to be a bit more impatient or want to have quick returns and so on. But in Europe you have to have some patience and do these things right, and like you said in the beginning, like the word of mouth, like for Tesla. So you need to create good word of mouth. So the people don't believe any fake advertisement or so. So they need to be engaged. They need to know that this is good, and then it will take off at some point of time.
Okay, so like I actually, when I was living in Beijing, I feel like the customer service was actually top notch, like so good. Like when I chat with somebody, they just immediately reply you, on those kind of like delivery shops. But I don't know why when they enter the European market, it becomes so, left behind. What's the reason?
Yeah, so you're right? Like also in automotive, like some brands in China, like NIO, also they do an outstanding community and customer service and so on. Of course, when they come here, they think maybe it's not as important as in China, but you need to connect with the people, and you need to do it in a good and credible, down-to-earth way, and it doesn't go so fast. So it's challenging, and it's a mindset issue. We also have to keep in mind, some of the companies, they're really under pressure in China, because in China, the market now, there's an incredible price war for electric vehicles. So because we have much more new brands and companies than the market can take up, so everyone is cutting the price, and a lot of companies are selling the cars at a loss. So, and some of them are going bankrupt. So BYTON is not the only one. I mean, there were more than 100 companies who already failed and went out. So it's a very tough competition. So some companies now, they go to Europe, they don't have the patience or the mindset to do that in the right way. So I put myself also as a principal for Neue. So the people we are working with, from our side, the selection is number one, is a great product with good conscience, I will be able to recommend to all my friends. Yeah? So it must be like this. Yeah? So I can full-heartedly be 100% convinced of it. Yeah? Secondly, the management of that company has a mindset to do that sustainable. Yeah? So if you're doing well, maybe we can grow much faster, but we have to have a mindset, this is a 3 to 5 year mission to build in Europe. Yeah? And in 2030, we can see if we're successful or not. Yeah? And that's very important. Yeah? If they don't share this mindset, then it's difficult, yeah, to do that in a sustainable way. And I also think if you enter with a new brand in a market, you only have a one-time chance. Yeah, so if you mess that up, yeah, and it really creates some bad experience or you want to do it again, it's nearly impossible, right? So so you need to get it right, yeah, the first time.
Yeah. So if somebody is listening who owns an Asian brand, Chinese brand, Singaporean brand, Malaysian brand, they want to enter the Western world, let's say Europe, what would be the first 3 things they need to check?
Yeah, I think you need really spend sufficient time to think about your strategy. Yeah, so if you now talk about totally green field, the first thing is, of course, I need to be sure that my product matches with Europe. Yeah? So because it sells very good in China, but in Europe it's not really perfect, right? So this is the first thing I would definitely try to make sure that I have a highly competitive product that meets real customer demand, and also on the digital side, yeah? Because it's a complete different ecosystem here than in China. The second thing is, before you launch, then you need to have your strategy right. For example, do you sell with dealers? Yeah, independent dealers. Yeah? Or do you want to try out something new? You go digital only. You just have someone do the service for you. Yeah? So if I would enter the market now with a good product, affordable, if I would be the OEM from Asia, I would try to do something radical, innovative, yeah? To go maybe online only. Yeah, of course you need to have offline things. Yeah, but you don't need necessarily go a very traditional model. But depending on how you do it, you need to build it up ahead of time. At least 1 year before you launch, you need to build up this infrastructure. Yeah? Either the dealer network and distributor network and the service network, and also the digital landscape, yeah, to do that. Yeah? I would try to really gain the customers by a service promise, yeah? to really give them a very strong, this experience you had in Beijing, right? Like to give them this experience right from the beginning. And then you need to build your brand. And this not necessarily, like Tesla shows, requires maybe lots of money, but building a community, getting the talk, creating your fans who become your ambassadors and put the seed out, and it become a movement. The best thing is, as a brand, if you identify with values of people, yeah, and then it's more than just the brand you like. It becomes something you believe in. Yeah? It becomes a movement. And now this is about getting our climate crisis solved, yeah? and doing a lot of things. So I would always try to also appeal in a credible way, of course, to personal emotion of people. And but on the other side, we need to say, of course, launching a car brand, doing all these things, it's a difficult business. It's not an easy business. So you need really 360. And then you need to do a lot of things. Yeah? You need to work on your residual value. Yeah? You need to talk to the fleet companies, yeah? So we can make sure that we can have some good offer for them. Yeah? And you qualify the service and all these kind of things. But the things I mentioned before may be most important. And if 20 new brands coming and entering, you need to find a way to stick out.
Yeah. And okay, so there is an elephant in the room, right? So a lot of people say Chinese car brand, they have a certain reputation, a controversial one.
Yes.
How would you react on that?
Yeah. So it's a reality. So firstly, I think it's good to address this always in a open way, not like a hidden elephant way, but in an open way. So there's 2 levels in my view. The one is that Chinese cars had a bad reputation before in Europe, because I don't remember exactly 10, 15 years ago, there was a Chinese brand came to Germany, and then they got tested. They got 0 stars in the crash test,
and
it's become a laughing stock. So everyone laughed about it. Yeah? And everyone in China know that. So it's a shame, yeah, because then everyone thought, oh, the Chinese cars are really crap. Yeah? So and still some people remember this. So and the same like for other goods, they think made in China is cheap but not necessarily high quality. Yeah. So that was the case. But now the reality is not anymore like this. Yeah? So we see, not everyone, of course, but we see some of the very good brands, they can be on a similar level like a German premium brand, yeah, in terms of quality. But this is something people need to see it to believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, for example, our Voya product, the Free, it competes with BMW, Mercedes, Audi electric vehicles. All the people who sit in it, they're amazed. They say, this is a Chinese car, yeah, it feels great, it looks great, and so on. So this takes time to people really to sit in the car, to experience it, to get trust in it. But the good thing is, if you ask people on the road, yeah, there's a little bit market research about it. Like 5 years ago, I think more than 95% would have rejected to ever buy a Chinese branded car.
Yeah.
And right now, at least 50% are already open to that. Yeah? It doesn't mean they necessarily buy it, but they're open to consider because they get the point. Now we are in the times of change from gasoline car to electric car, and obviously Chinese brands are doing that quite good. So the people are considering that. That's a rare time in industries when the existing system is disrupted. If you have major changes, then people will consider new players. It's usually not so easy as a new brand, but right now it can happen. Then there's a second level, is a political level, where in general the image of China as a country is very bad in Europe. It's a reality. So and if you watch TV or read the newspaper, it's no wonder. And of course, I don't want to talk on the politics, right? But there's people who naturally don't like China and don't want a Chinese product. It's okay. We have to accept that. I mean, it's no problem. There are also people who don't like a Japanese or Korean product. They want to just buy a German product. That's a reality, right? Like we can't educate people or change people. That's the freedom of choice. But on the other side, there's many customers who will be convinced by a good product. Remember in US market, right? Like US market before used to be dominated by Chrysler, Ford, GM. And then Toyota came in and Nissan came in. They became number one in US market. Hyundai came in, became number one in US market. So in the end, for example, in the US market, the consumer will choose the best product with best price to value ratio. And I think a lot of people, they will, of course, they need to be convinced, and it takes a little bit of time. But if they see the price value is good, we get a good electric car for 20,000 euro, which offers good service, why not? Huh? I mean, they will put this idealism beside, I think. And that's a good way to deal with it. I think the Chinese brands, of course, you have this kind of disadvantage from perception, so you need to do better than the competition. You need to give better service, have a better product at a lower price in order to gain the trust of the consumers. Yeah?
So like I remember back then, like Elon was marking Chinese car, right?
Oh, yeah,
the BDY.
Yeah.
Is that the car brand?
Yeah, BYD. Yeah. Build Your Dreams. Yes.
Yeah, BYD, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. He was marking it, and right now it's the probably number one market share in the EV car industry.
That's right. Yeah.
What makes it successful?
Yeah. So this Build Your Dreams. Is a private company in China. It was founded more than 20 years ago. And originally they were also doing batteries. And in the beginning, to be honest, their cars were quite bad quality. Yeah? So there was always these stories in Shenzhen, the taxi drivers, they had to go electric, but it was really not good quality, and there were some health concerns and so on. So in the beginning, not good image. Yeah? And but at some point of time, Warren Buffett invested in them, and their share price went up, and they've learned a lot. Yeah? And they have really been constantly improving. And from this very poor taxi in Shenzhen and south of China, they're now up and they're providing outstanding quality. Yeah? So and they've learned, and they've learned quite fast. And they've done something similar like Tesla. They've integrated the battery competence in-house. So they're building their own batteries. They know how to build good batteries and how to build the car around the battery in a good way. And they're a very impressive company, definitely to do that. I think Elon Musk changed his mind already.
Even though he wouldn't say.
No, he will not admit making a mistake. But I think he has already said that he believes the only competitor of Tesla is really the Chinese brands. Yeah? So I wouldn't necessarily subscribe to that. Yeah, so I still think we can't write off the Germans and the American brands. Yeah, but in his mind, all the traditional companies are already gone, and it's only Tesla or the Chinese brand. Yeah, so I think he noticed quite well. And by the way, Tesla, big success. One of the big reasons now they went through the roof was that they got the special support from China, right? They were the first brand allowed to take 100% stake in China.
Oh, really?
Going away from 50-50. So no one believed that. Yeah? So when I was talking to him 10 years ago, I told him because he wanted to do it alone, 100% Tesla, right? And at that time, every foreign brand had to do a joint venture with a local partner, 50-50. Yeah. I said, don't waste your time. You can find a not so strong Chinese partner who lets you run the business, but don't waste time and start to do it. And he always, in his mind, want to insist on doing it 100% in his own control. Yeah?
And he did it?
Yeah, in the end, he got the approval. It was outside of everyone's imagination. I think the Chinese number one decided it personally, probably, to do this. And then in Shanghai, they get huge government support. They get a loan, I think 2 billion or something like that, to build a factory and everything like that. And then they get very good cost there. So one big reason why they were able to scale up the company now to nearly 2 million cars was because they got great support in China. And I think he already said the speed of China, the way how the Chinese companies are also looking at customer demand, the digital side, and the customer experience, that this is the future. Yeah? So from his side, and I think in this point he's right.
Yeah, crazy. I didn't know that he got 100% ownership of Tesla in China.
That was crazy, and made a lot of Chinese companies quite upset. Yeah, so,
and
also they get probably the support Tesla got in China from the government is bigger than the support any Chinese company got from the Chinese government. Yeah, so it's my personal guess. Yeah, so
I mean, Elon Musk is such a controversial person. Like look at the things he does, but on the other hand, just get the things done.
Yeah, that's right. I think so. Firstly, on purely the Tesla side, so he was always promising great things and usually always not fulfilling his promise. But in the end, so after he launched Model 3, he can scale up the volume to more than 1 million cars. Now his model to nearly 2 million cars. This is an amazing achievement, and this I would not have thought it's possible to do it in this way, to be honest, despite I admire Tesla from a certain degree, but this is amazing performance. But I think my personal observation is that he falls a bit in a trap of sometimes the very powerful and successful people get into if they're too successful. So then they get maybe a little bit overconfident. So I think that's not good. And then getting political, so on the one side and so on. So this is I dislike that a little bit. But the Tesla performance, that was amazing. But his commitment to investors, so the reason why it's still the most valuable car company in the world, by far, so is because he is committing to go from 2 million to 20 million cars. That means 1 in 3 cars is a Tesla in, I don't know, 5 years or something like that. And that he will launch the full self-driving autonomous driving in all the cars, and then a lot of Teslas, they can drive around as a robot taxi. And basically, if you own a Tesla and you don't use it, you can let it drive around and make money for you. So, and this is what investors believe. So, but in my view, there's still a big question mark. If that will happen, it might happen, but it's not clear whether Tesla is going to be the leader in these things.
Yeah, and also like right now, I also see a lot of development in flying taxi area, right? So I just
flying taxi is amazing. By the way, I'm also the advisor of one of these flying taxi companies. Yes, and also
my God.
no, not Lilium,
Okay.
and also have invested a little bit. It's a company of a good friend of me in Salzburg. It's called Fly Now. It's an amazing. It's a small electric helicopter, not with a pilot, so just for one person, and has this rotor. It's very light, and you can fly 50 kilometers. The prototype is flying already, and the interesting thing about this one is that it's very low cost. So if this comes, you will be able to fly, let's say, from Munich downtown to the airport in 10 minutes for 10 euro. Yeah.
In case the people don't know, from Munich center to go to airport, you need to take 1 hour with public transportation, which is wow.
Exactly. So what Lilium also is great, and Volocopter and so on. But in my view, they're just replacing rich people tools, which wasting kerosene now with electricity. Yeah. So and the real meaningful thing is the same like with the cars. We talk about this affordable thing. It's nice, for the rich people to have a high-end electric vehicle. But the meaningful thing is to make a mass vehicle. Yeah. So and the same for flying. It's only meaningful if you're able to make the whole transport better and more affordable for people, more convenient. Yeah. And in big cities, if you're able to do inner city transport on certain routes with flying complement to the rest of public transport, it's going to be very meaningful, but you have to get the cost down. Yeah. So, and that's why I also look into the space. I think it's very exciting. Yeah. I think we're going to see some exciting stuff happening there in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. I still remember, I think that was 4 years ago, I was finishing my thesis with R&D organization of Airbus, and I was building a model how to change consumer behavior from the non-sustainable one to the sustainable one, because I just look at European market. Everybody say I care about the climate, but not everybody's acting, right? So we were doing research on that. And I stumbled upon this flying taxi, because imagine from intermetropolitan city, you can replace the flight from, just normal flight to those electronic, vertical takeoff and landing.
Exactly, eVTOL.
Yeah, how should I call this kind of like device?
Yeah.
It can save a lot of emission,
Yeah, for sure. It's and also for cargo, and even within cities, like what I mentioned, routes from airport to downtown and so on, is very meaningful. And this is quite exciting. You should take a look at the one I know. It's a very cool prototype. Yeah.
I never heard of it yet, because back then when I was doing research, there was Uber was developing it, Google. Amazon, I forgot if they are doing it or not.
I think they invested also somewhere, not themselves, I think.
Right. But the biggest one is Lilium, because we're in Munich, right? So like talking back to the point of autonomous driving. So I was just wondering which one will come faster, the flying taxi first or the autonomous driving first?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think autonomous driving, when we founded, for example, BYTON in 2016, a lot of people thought in 2020 we're going to see all the roads full of autonomous. Really, at that time there was such a hype.
Really?
Such a can-do. So maybe not in Europe, but in let's say driving from LA to Las Vegas, an autonomous vehicle, a lot of people were betting money on that, that it's going to be possible. And then it didn't come. So there were a lot of problems. But actually now in 25 now, I really have the feeling we're at a turning point. And the people not really notice this. But in US, you have a couple of cities like in San Francisco or in Phoenix. We have Waymo and Tesla and some other guys. They're really operating already autonomous fleets. You can completely have a driverless taxi there already on the normal road. So it's not just a limited use case. And in China, in nearly all of the big cities, we have already real autonomous taxi fleets operating, like Pony AI and Baidu and other ones in China. So I think we are very short and the government supporting this. I think we're very short before seeing quite serious robotaxi use cases. Maybe not in Europe, but in North America and in China. So that's cool. And for eVTOL, the regulation is tough. For flying stuff, it really takes time. But Olympics in Paris, we're going to see Volocopter take some flights from airport to stadium, or I forgot, they have a certain route where they're going to fly. And it takes time to have people transport over populated area. You need to do a lot of miles over non-populated area without people and then with people, and then you can slowly get better. So the regulations for air is just quite cumbersome, but I think it's gonna come. So and some areas like Saudi Arabia, UAE, they're seeing a chance in this, because in Europe the regulation is so strict and so slow. So some of these players, they're gonna go there. So I think we're gonna see it first maybe in the Middle East, maybe also North America. It's different, it's a little bit different culture. China, there are some players as well, Yihang, so they get very special in Guangzhou, right? You have some Xiaopeng, Yihang, you have some companies in South China. It's already getting some approvals from the government to do this. So this is coming.
It's so funny. Back then, I almost worked for Ihan and Volocopter.
Okay.
When I just graduated. But I didn't know that Ihan is still developing. That is cool.
They're still. They're in China, I think they're already quite advanced. So they have some special use cases. But I think this one I'm working with, Fly Now, they're advanced because the architecture of all these, like Yihang and Volocopter, they're all multi-copter system.
I don't like that.
They have a lot of rotors. And if you imagine, just looking at it, it's very complex. So it's very complex to have 8 or 10 or 12 rotors. It's firstly complex to steer it, and then secondly, it's like the small DJI drone, right? It's scaled up and make it bigger. And this is expensive and complicated. So what Jürgen Greil, he is this founder of this company. He was, by the way, the inventor of the i3 in BMW.
No way. My God.
It's a very cool guy. And he's aerospace engineer originally, so he has this background. So he went the other way, not using a DJI drone and scale it up, but using a helicopter and scaling it down. And the helicopter principle, you have these 2 rotors. Actually, it's a proven concept. And it's just it's much easier. So it's not as complex from aerodynamics, and cost-wise, you can get it much cheaper. So maybe factor 10 to these multi-copter systems. So it's quite interesting.
One thing I'm not so convinced towards like Volocopter and Ihan is the design, aesthetic-wise speaking. I'm not a big fan of those kind of design. I like lean design way better. I'm gonna check the Fly Now for sure.
So Lilium is a different use case, right? Like this is really intercity, quite long range. So the other one, the Yihang and Fly Now and Volocopter, is more short to mid range, more also inner city scenarios, like or big urban areas, or special use cases, going on a mountain or to a ship, or emergency firefighting, these kind of cases. So it really depends on the use case. But this is very exciting, because if you do this, it's not just enough to make a good product, right? You need to work with regulators, you need to work with the city, you need to create completely new use cases. So it's just creating the smart city of the future. And this needs an ecosystem. So you need to start and land somewhere. You need to be able to charge, you need the air corridor and traffic control and so on. So it's quite challenging, but it's very fascinating, because this will create a new ecosystem at all.
I was also having a really big debate with a lot of friends. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna, like, I don't think it's the right time to buy any real estate right now in a city center, because imagine just the regulation pass, right? You have this flying taxi and stuff start going on, how the real estate price will look like, right? So that one I'm also super excited.
You're right. But I think, for example, in Europe, I don't believe in a scenario where we will see lots of inner city air taxis. So I believe we will not be able to have real autonomous air taxis maybe the next 20 years.
That's not, no.
But like what Fly Now, for example, is doing is just autopilot, right? Like a certain traffic corridor where you have air traffic control, you have emergency landing spots, you go from A to B, and then you fly always along this route. This is quite realistic, and I think you need to city planning. So for a city like Munich or some other city, it won't make sense to have lots of these routes. But if you do it in a way it's complementary to your public transport, maybe there's one or two routes, like from city center to airport or something else, which make a lot of sense. And then you have to create a corridor, right? Like which is approved and so on, And then this corridor, maybe if you live there, it's a little bit annoying, but these the sound will be quite low, so there won't be too much noise of that. I mean, less noise than you get from road traffic usually.
Yeah, exactly. I was listening to the podcast from I think it's also Daniel, right, the founder of Lilium. I forgot his name. And he was saying the noise will only be like a train go past by your. Just hop on, for instance. So I think it's really realistic. So Daniel comes to the end of the podcast. If you wish me to ask you one question, and how would that question looks like, and how would you answer it?
Oh, you asked already. So lots of good questions.
I'm flattered.
No, sure. I think. I think we talked on a lot of on the good things, right? Like. Any more thing I want you to ask? So I feel I have told most of the things. So
okay. How about this? So if anybody just click on this podcast, what would you wish people can take away after listening to this podcast 1.5 hours?
I'm a bridge builder, right? Like, and this is completely non-political. It's just between China, Germany, Asia, and Europe. I think so great cultures, great people. And we don't need more complicated multipolar world, but we need to grow together. So I want to keep an open mind. And we think more about integration than disintegration. I think that would be that's what I believe, and I also try to do in everything I do.
Well, I think that is a really good point, right? As a multicultural background professional yourself, and of course I have a lot of experience over there, which I can share with you. Daniel, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for making the big change, big impact in the world. I do believe when we bring in more low cost, sustainable alternative to the world, to the Europe, to the US, we can create a better world, better future for our next generation as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and you can leave your comment below, ask the questions, and I will pick one of the best questions and then add as the guest without you knowing who is the guest you are going to ask the question to. So thank you for listening.